And it's movie time, and we're back again with movie time. Hey everyone, how you doing? Didn't think that you would see us again, huh? Well, we're back, and we're scarier than ever for season, what, 7?
Something like that.
Yeah, it's
starting our nice season off.
So something like it's like 7. Now that I have that the media ban has been lifted off.
You would see us again, huh?
I can actually be on the air.
We're back. Sweet. So, it's like we're going to be talking about tonight several of our wonderful subjects. Starting off our new year. By the way, happy 2020, y'all. In case you were wondering, yes, as we promised, we will be back with movie time, and we'll be jamming and all of that. One of our first places that we're going to be jamming from is going to be Sundance.
All right.
So that's going to be really super cool.
I've always wanted to go to Sundance.
Yeah? So, Olaf, what you thinking about, what's your thoughts on Sundance this year in our lineup?
So, from what I've seen, it's like the lineup is going to be really interesting. I have a friend of mine who it helps out with that. So, and that's coming up in what, about 6 or 7 days, something like that.
Yupper.
Yeah, because he was like talking. He said 9 days till Sundance. So yeah, he's been talking about it a little bit, and it's like the lineup looks really good so far. Should be a really good film festival. You got some of the ones that are going to be there are going to be really, I think, going to be really interesting films.
Oh yeah, and it's like what's really nice about Sundance is that unlike all the other festivals, it kind of has its own vibe going throughout the whole entire year, which is really something quite different from like AFM and other ones, VisionCon and things like that, where they're happening only periodically. With the Sundance Institute, it continues on throughout the year with the mentoring programs.
Right.
So,
which makes it really, like you say, it gives it a whole different, in other words, other than just being, here, let's show a bunch of films and all that. There, like you say, there's a whole thing that goes on with that throughout the year. So it just makes it more of a community type, festival.
Well, yeah, and it's really super, super exciting with it. And I mean, like the collab. Have you checked out the collab on there?
No, I haven't had a chance to yet.
Yeah, some of the things that they're doing this year is they're also connecting throughout the year with people in the industry, so that it's like depending upon what kind of category are you in, and that they give you things like, for example, little talks between the community. It's kind of they're giving like live podcasts of events and stuff. So it's like it's also quite interesting and different. I signed up for the collab because I was like, okay, I'm kind of curious of who mentors in these collabs and stuff. And it's actually quite interesting to see that it's kind of everybody gets together on a sharing platform, which is actually starting to become the theme of 2020, collaboration and sharing in the industry. It's like, it's no longer just your simple going through and, you're doing yours, I'm doing mine and everything. For example, they've had Todd Luizzo talking on acting and directing events. They're going to have like comedy writing. So if you're a writer, you get some writing events, as well as also some stuff on WIP and things. So there's some sound events, disruptors, and talking about that, which is bringing us to a very interesting thing this year. A lot more streaming platforms.
Well, imagine that, more streaming.
I know, shocker. Who didn't know that one was coming?
Yeah, didn't see that coming, a mile off, that there was going to be more streaming platforms. It's like, let's see, since everybody and their uncle is jumping on the streaming bandwagon.
Yeah. And it's like, and what's kind of interesting is also they have, about that with the different platforms like Disney Plus is starting to hit their kick on 2020. It's going to start impacting a lot of the streaming companies with more choices for streaming. And they're starting to realize that it's like new indie content is going to have to start coming out. So Sundance is really going to be a huge launcher.
Right. Well, with the advances, or with more streaming coming out, and like you said, with the indie film, I think it's going to make it easier and quicker for, like, say, okay, you make a movie, or like Kinte when he's making one of his movies. I think it's going to make it a lot easier for you to be able to get it to the masses, because now you can pop it up on some streaming. Somebody's going to come up with a streaming platform that is like, say, an indie streaming platform, so that you got an indie film, there would be some criteria that it might have to fit, and if it fits that, you can make your movie and pop it up on there, and then it would wind up being one of those things, kind of like Disney and some of the other ones, where it's $6 or $8 a month, and you get to stream all these movies. So somebody's going to do that. I kind of feel like somebody will do a like an indie type streaming thing, so that you can people can become members of it. Because cable companies are kind of, as far as in my opinion, cable companies are starting to get lose some of their they're losing the HBOs and Showtimes and all that stuff, because now for so many dollars, so much a month, you can have a subscription to HBO or to Showtime or to any of the the bigger cable networks, and you don't have to have you don't have to pay the cable company $200 a month channels. You can go in and buy buy them out individually, and it might cost you $60 or $80 a month, but you can have Disney and Stars and Showtime and HBO and all them. So I got a feeling that eventually it may not be I don't know how soon it would be, but somebody's going to put together a indie streaming or channel. What do you think?
Oh, most definitely, it's going to happen, because it's like we're coming in on that, and even Sundance has said that they're going to like, we do have the Sundance channel in terms of that. So it's like, that we are going to be getting a lot of indie channels at IFC. It's like the problem has been with a lot of these channels: are they truly indie?
No.
Or are they pumping the same commercial thing just through their channeling streams?
Yeah, I feel like
go on.
No, I was just saying, there a lot of them are not truly indie. But here's my thing is, okay, we have all these streaming sites, right? Like the Netflixes and the Hulus and the Amazon, and they're just putting money into the game, right? They're just putting all this money into the game, right? And people are getting work, and people are making money. You got some of our favorite directors are getting paid quite a bit, money that wasn't there nowhere else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But this bubble got to burst, right? I mean, this can't stay. Like, Netflix is not going to continue shelling out money like this forever, right? At some point, it's going to fall apart. So what happens then? What do they just ride this thing until they no longer can? I mean, because it just seems like it's a boom right now, but it's going to bust.
But it's funny you should mention that, because at the last AFM they made mention of the fact that it's like places like Netflix and all of that are starting to pay less money for product than they did in the previous years.
Right.
But what this will start doing is it will start also making it a little bit more diversification within the industry, because there's going to start becoming more specialty channels towards the type of things that people like to see. Like there might become a documentary streaming channel for people who like purely documentaries. It's like or as Olaf had mentioned, extreme, like a extreme indie channel where it's like it's completely indie in regards to that. And we had talked about a little while back of the known and unknowns in regards to that this industry. A lot of people don't realize that it's like the bubble is slowly bursting, but it's bursting in a positive way, because then these channels are realizing they're going to start having challenges. So what they're going to have to start doing is rising to the top of those challenges by actually getting content that people will keep them wanting to go to their $9.99 Hulu channel or $12.99 Netflix channel or whatever the price may be. But it works to actually everybody's advantage, because then the more product that needs to be there, the more exciting that it is.
Do you see the question on the screen?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Patricia, by the way. And you're asking, can indie filmmakers join and create a Roku Apple channel and monetize? Absolutely, they can. It's like Apple content is starting to become super, super popular in terms of that. And how many people want to pay to listen to a streaming service now? You'd actually be surprised in regards to how many people would want to pay for streaming services, because as much as they're paying less, their membership is also actually increasing over box office, because as people are moving towards more a gaming type atmosphere, they find that streaming and gaming go hand in hand with one another.
Right. Yep, I would agree with that. Streaming and gaming going together, yeah.
Yeah, which is also going to start becoming the next wave of interactive things, where Apple is coming ahead of the game on that, actually. So, yeah, Sundance is I'm sure, going to highlight a lot of this too, because I was just looking at some of the courses that they're even highlighting online over the year. Screenwriting, directing, preparing for your first features, TV, documentary creations, TV creations, writing TV, things like that, creating nonfiction works, screenwriting, things like writing your first act, documentary filmmaking, crafting your story from post. These are also starting to become hugely popular to people, which you wouldn't think that documentaries would become as popular as they are, but they really are.
Documentaries, I mean, because, documentaries, if told right, can be so much entertaining, and it doesn't cost as much, right, as doing, just doing a feature film about it. So I can see why documentaries are all the rage, because they can be produced pretty fast on a small budget.
Right.
And Olaf, you'd agree with that it's like in terms of documentaries that there are like a broader scope of topics that you can use in terms of that, as well as also one of the things that is appealing to a lot of people with the documentary is they're not censored in the way that a film is censored.
Right.
Right. You have more freedom. It's like you have a little more freedom with a documentary, because you're telling a story of something that actually happened. So you have a little bit of like you say, little leeway in the censoring, because, well, it has to be this way because that's how it happened. So yeah, it definitely with the documentaries, you have a little more leeway if you're going to do that.
What's funny and really interesting is also with things like Sundance, other events and stuff like that, they're actually starting to open up funding for documentaries as well. Mm-hmm. And it's not like it was before, where it's kind of the, two people in the camera. Actually, a lot of documentaries are starting to be shot a lot like feature films, which is kind of interesting and a different kind of twist to it. How do you think that also in terms of that's going to pan out to all of these new streaming channels in terms of content?
I would say that it's going to, just again broaden it out even farther than where it's at now, and just give you just so much more to choose from. If you don't want, it's like if you'd rather watch something about, like I said with the documentaries, you're not going to get as much. You won't get near as much of the blood and guts and all that other stuff. Depending on what you're doing a documentary of. I just think it just gives a broader range of content that you can get a hold of and that you can do, and like you bring it's a lot cheaper, a lot less expensive to do a documentary than it is to do a feature film, and you don't have to worry about trying to write it or whatever because it's already been written. Mm-hmm. So you just follow along timeline as long as you do a good job of laying out the events, you're good to go.
You're also not restricted by your boundaries and timelines like you are with other things, because with a documentary you can do it in several different parts, where a movie has to be encapsulated within a certain time period for the interest of the audience.
Right.
For a TV series. It's like, and so I'm finding some interesting stuff that's going on there. Another thing that's also starting to change with our world that the Sundance is also dealing with is a lot of times they've been accused in the past of what is now indie is not really actually indie. Okay. And it's so I'm noticing this year that they're actually really diversifying.
Okay. I'm my devil's advocate. It's like, what do you mean it's indie, but it's not indie? For those of us who don't know, can you elaborate on that?
Yes. It's like a lot of things that have now been defined as indie is basically under a certain amount of budget, and they call it indie filming. And they are they're still collaborated by studios and having studio representations. You're still having the same popular actors that you had in your past, but you are not having the same sort of thing as a tentpole feature. Indie films are considered to be things that are under $1 million in terms of budget to be considered to be an indie or low budget film. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are still having famous names in them. We're not still yet back to independent names, but it's kind of interesting where we're starting to open that up in the horror genre. So I'm wondering how long it's going to take us to, or how long do you think it's going to actually take us to move to different streams of going, okay, we're tired of seeing the same star over and over and over again in 25 different movies?
Well, I don't know. I would hate to say, in the next 5 years, that might happen, but it really depends on the actors that are in the movies, because there are some actors that a lot of people can't get enough of because they're such a fantastic actor. So I think it really, to answer that question, is I wouldn't want to put a time frame saying that it's in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years that it would be an issue, because again, it depends on the actors. You can see the same one. You can see the same one in 10 different movies, but if they're a really good actor, they can their work speaks for themselves. It's like everybody wants to see more of that particular actor. So I think that would be more of an accurate, can't think, more of an accurate positioning of it. Just to say, it depends on the actors that are in the film.
It really does. It's like I find that also, though, there are certain actors who it's like, okay, we've seen them for a while, and their performances are amazing. I'm not giving anything of a give up to any of the actors, but some of the people have to realize that, there's just also quite a bit that for the up and coming that is coming out. And
Right.
one of the ways are actually through documentaries, ironically enough, that you can get discovered towards your feature.
Right. And the other thing, it's like to go along with that too, it really depends on, like new actors or, up and coming actors or, seasoned actors. It really depends on the type of documentaries that they are in or the type of movies that they are in, because, they may be, just fantastic in, but a documentary. It's like if they were doing documentaries and, they did a lot of Old West documentaries. They may be fantastic in those and just awesome to watch. You put them in a documentary that's about the Civil War or something like that, and they may stink. You don't know. They may not fit well into that. So you really got to watch. So you have to see how they would do if what their range of acting consists of. So you might have somebody who's a new and up and coming actor that would do really well in medieval stuff, but something in the 60s, 70s, 60s or 70s, maybe that actor wouldn't be the right one. Might be able to play the part, but not be convincing. That makes sense.
Very true. And this is why it's like also it's going to be quite interesting to see what's going on there right now. And another thing that's really quite interesting for all of those who are like interested into finding out a little bit more also about Sundance as well. There is also things like master classes, for example. One of the master classes that they have is legal toolkits from protecting your IP through negotiating distribution. It's like we've had a lot of chit chat about that in terms of that, and also social activism through storytelling. We're starting to see also. What do you think of also this trend of also now becoming more interactive with film? Because in 2020, the audiences are no longer doing that. It's why shows like Black Mirror were super popular. You can interact with the story, change the story at will. What do you think about this new trend of coming forward with like more interactive shows, interactive documentary, things like that?
I would say that it's, my opinion, it's a good thing, because rather than just sitting and watching something, if you have interaction, that you can change the storyline a little bit, or have, you can interact with the documentary, that it brings you into it more, it interests you more, and you want to see more things like that. So I think I think interaction in a movie is a good thing when it's possible.
Oh, absolutely. And now
hey,
also,
I'm just like everybody else. I like to throw tomatoes at the screen every once in a while, and hey, that's a good interaction to me.
why wouldn't we want to throw? Sometimes it's like sometimes I'm really sitting there going like, yeah, I'd really just like to throw something at that screen if it means that I'm actually going to get a decent product coming out of it.
There you go. And it's like, and you throw a tomato at the screen, and it hits, and then in the movie, the actor gets hit with a tomato. So hey, that's interaction for you.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't mean that kind of interaction though, do you?
Well, kind of, sort of. It's like if we could 4D the tomato. How about that?
Well, yeah, there you go. Well, but anyway, it's like, no, being able to actually, because of the way the media and everything is going, having like a question pop up on the screen or something that you can have like 3 or 4 different answers, and you can click on one and answer it during the movie, or during the thing is, I think it just draws the audience in and makes them, want more of that, because they're watching something that they like. They're able to, interact with it, and, they learn something more. They're like, oh, it's like they said that earlier. Oh, that's this. So
definitely, it's engaging them and
yeah,
engaging your audience.
right.
So I'll throw it out also to our listeners as well. It's like, how much do you want to be engaged into your film? Do you want to be full immersion, or would you want only partial immersion, or do you want control of the story? So this will be an interesting one to see the answers to, because it's one of the things of how immersed do you want to be? Do you want to be partially, fully, or be able to control the actual story?
Right. And, do you think they would be, and when they go to that kind of interaction, do you think they would actually, maybe like in the beginning, do you want to, change the story? Do you want to do this? And give it options in the beginning to be able to interact with it how you want to. Do you think they would do that?
Yeah.
Be out. Okay, this one here you can, interact a little bit with it. This one here you could change the story a little bit. You can change which direction the story goes, or how do you? Yeah, it's like, what do you think on that, in that aspect of things, how they would do it?
Well, and this is where it's coming into two different streams of mindset. They can be using the virtual world environment to be able to do that by having it as immersive experience, which is what they've been trying to do with VR and bringing it into the film world. Another way of doing it as well is that also doing it the way that they did it old school with Clue, where it's like you could choose your ending of which one you wanted to see in terms of that, A, B, C, or like Black Mirror, where it's like you go, okay, I don't want to see this. Like, here's your question. Let's flip through that. But what's going to wind up happening for the filmmaker is then you're going to have multiple streams of ways to end a film, multiple streams of ways to welcome back, Kinte, and to be able to actually interact with the project.
Right.
So then there's also the idea of being able to do it with the way that they wanted to do it with VRML Dream. Do you get to be the director of that project and steer your actors? Do you get to be one of the characters that become a pivotal role in there, and therefore manipulating the actors from a virtual lens of an eye? It's how do we want to do it? There's all these technologies that are coming up.
Right.
And she was saying, Patricia's saying that she subscribes to 3 documentary channels on Roku. Very cool. And if they're always so cheap to produce, actually, you see documentaries that encompass dozens of years of filming. Well, yeah, it's like they are a less expensive way than doing that, but also it's what his documentaries have done is force the price of bringing down for feature films the price of being able to do it, because now they're expecting a feature to be able to be the same price as a documentary. Documentaries can go anywhere from $250,000 and up. There are also documentaries that can go $5,000 and $10,000. When we're saying that they are cheaper to produce, is because you have a smaller crew. In terms of the subject, yes, they do take years, but also at the same time, with documentaries as well, you also have a more encapsulating thing. It's more one-on-one. There's not a lot of group interaction in that. There's not a lot of setups. The camera angles are more independently free-flowing with it. You don't have the subtext of having to worry about the take over and over and over again, because with documentaries it's right off the cuff a lot of times in a single take versus multiple takes. So it does become cheaper.
And depending on what you're doing, you don't have to build a bunch of sets and everything, because you're going to where it happened at and using what's already there. So yeah, it saves you money in a lot of ways, and you just have to research and find the right building or the right street or something. So yeah, it saves you money that way too.
And also it saves you from having to have a lot of studios as well, and studio time, except for in post-production. So pretty much where all your costs are happening in your post-production house.
Right.
So it's kind of a little bit of an exciting avenue towards that. And even in filming, we're starting to get to natural locations as well, in that sense. But also, as well, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that are happening with the industry also, in terms of, as we have all seen, the big elephant in the room, we'll talk about it now, is the Weinstein situation of what's happening. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, Olaf. We know it's big and it's pink.
Right. Yep.
You know, really walking in with a walker into the courthouse? Seriously?
Yep.
I'm sorry, why didn't he just have a neck brace and a wheelchair?
Oh, yeah. It's like, go ahead and kick off the elephant. Go ahead and kick the elephant there. I'll let you kick it off there.
Okay. Well, kicking off the elephant there, it comes down to what we had spoken about before in the Movietime a little bit, dealing with this situation. It's like, it's not only dealing with the Me Too's, it's dealing with the fact that it's like people have now cracked wise to this. It's like where we had 1 year ago a very strong dealing with the Me Too movement, we're now starting to deal with the fact of also there's a little bit of pushback in it in a different manner. The manner that I would probably say is, first of all, we all know that, yes, Weinstein did it. It's just a matter of, does it do that? But mind you, with our current state of things that are going on, it seems it doesn't really matter whether you did it or didn't do it. Your chances of being convicted for it is pretty much a slap on the wrist and going, no, don't do that again.
Right, yeah, don't do it anymore.
Yeah, don't do it anymore. You did it once, and next time if you're going to use the walker, please use it to shove over the person before you start stripping yourself.
Right.
You know, so there's that, but also it brings forward our rules that we had talked about before. Ladies and gentlemen of film, if you are going to be dealing with producers, you're going to be dealing with directors, you're going to be dealing on auditions, no, do not go upstairs to their hotel room. Shocker. Chances are that's not the audition that they want.
You're going to be
not asking that kind of part.
Yeah, you'll be auditioning, but it won't be the part for the movie you're trying to audition for.
Exactly. One thing. Second, if they're saying, well, that's the only way that you're going to get the role, well, yeah, but not that role that you're after either.
Right.
And there is no meeting that is worth putting up your safety barriers. In this day and age with human trafficking and so many other things that are going on, and also with accusations, literally you make yourself a human target by going into private places with people. And whether you are an actor, whether you are a model, whether you are a screenwriter, you know what? It's like there is the reason why there are professional places like the AFM, like Sundance, places like that. And even if you are taking meetings with people, there is no meeting that you need to go into a private place for. Speak privately? Absolutely. Go into a private place for? Absolutely not.
Right. Because you can always, there is always a way to find, a place that you can meet that's private, that gives you privacy, but is in public. It's like like a meeting room in at a restaurant or something, if they have one, or a back table or something. There's always a way to have a meeting somewhere about something like that. In private, it's like privately in public.
Correct. It's like what's wrong with the corner booth in the back that to be able to speak about the subject. It's like if you're already talking about NDNCs or any auditions, in terms of auditions, most auditions, they don't take place in a hotel room. Let's just put it to you that way. Most of them, they usually take place in a casting office with several people in the room. Another thing is if they're insisting on a one-on-one meeting, I would insist on a one-on-two meeting. Bring somebody with you to your meeting.
Right.
Tell them that you can go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, always you bring somebody with you. Even, they go in the room, they sit over in the corner, they don't say nothing, or, if you're auditioning, they don't go, yay, great job, or anything. They just go in, they sit down, and they're just there. That's your safety buffer right there.
Correct. It's like, in a lot of times, what you can also do to protect yourself as well, record the meeting that you're in there with. When you're with this person, because then they can hold the camera and say, look, I'm just making sure that everything is kosher during this meeting if I am meeting you in your hotel room. Which really you should not. It's like, and also having an eyewitness there as well, make sure that there's no misunderstandings or any misappropriations of words or anything like that.
Right. Okay, devil's advocate. In other words, devil's advocate in a meeting like that. First, those of us who don't know, let's say it's like you do go to a meeting like that and you're going to record it. It's like, doesn't that kind of, if you're auditioning for a part in a movie, you record that, doesn't that kind of infringe a little bit on like copyrights or anything? Because if you're auditioning for a part and you're recording it, now, if they're recording it, that's one thing. But in other words, if you're recording it, doesn't that kind of skate on the edge a little bit?
They actually record most auditions if it's in a reputable one, because they're going to want to play it back for the ultimate people to be able to decide in regards to it. Because if the director has a choice or producer has a choice, sometimes they'll want to look at performances over and over again before they have made a final decision in regards to that, if they're going to do for callbacks. The things you're going to be recording, if being wise about it, is what you're recording is, we are here in this place at this time. You have said that this is an audition. In regards to it, you don't necessarily have to record the physical audition itself in that, but everything that goes on before and after that audition.
Okay.
And any discussions that have been talked about of the role or of the part. Mm-hmm. Again, this is not being used for public use. This is being used so that there is no misunderstandings, that this is an actual audition, and the audition is not for you to take off your clothes.
Right.
There's also rules in an audition, for example, unless you have signed that you are okay consenting to any sort of nudity, you don't need to take off any clothes. You don't need to turn around and show your body to someone on camera. It's like, you don't need to show, any undergarments or anything as well, unless you have consented to any of this. And
well, also, darn it. I wished I would have known that on the last two auditions I went to. It's like, darn it, I wouldn't have had to, remove anything.
Yep, you wouldn't have had to strip those briefs. But as funny as that is, also guys have it too. It's like, sorry, but they do. To greater or lesser degrees, they do.
Right. Yeah, it's like, you know me, it's kind of like going to the audition and like, okay, it's like, shirt's got to come off and everything. I'm like, what? Okay. And I'm like, yeah, there we go. And nope, you're not it. Out. And it's like, darn it.
Yeah, it's like, honestly, it's like they wouldn't want to see what's underneath this.
It's like, I guess I shouldn't have let them take all those pictures either. Darn it. Oh, well.
I know. Bottom line is, when you are doing this, it's like you want to make sure that it's quite clear what you are auditioning for, what it is. And again, one of the things that also is not unusual is to have your agent, a representative, be with you as well during that meeting.
Yeah. And anybody, say if you're going to audition for somebody and your agent or somebody from your agent's office goes with you, whoever you're auditioning for shouldn't be like, oh, well, this is a closed audition. You can't be in here. Well, then, sorry. Maybe a great part, but and that's my representative comes in with me. I'm not doing it.
Correct. And that's for both of our protections.
Right.
It's like, so basic etiquette. It's like, then it comes down to and as I said, I'm not going to diminish what happened. It's if you do choose to go that route, you have to understand it's like what is being perceived on the opposite side.
Right.
On a devil's advocate side, that it's like you pretty much knew what you were getting into by reputation and by factor of going in there.
Right.
It doesn't mean you deserved what you got. But what it means is you have to be very careful when going into an auditioning situation. And we're not only talking about Weinstein, we're talking in general. Be very aware, be very wise. Be streetwise when going in.
Of your surroundings.
And
just be very aware of your surroundings and what you're doing, just to protect yourself.
Yes. Another thing that also a lot of news has gone on, it's like a lot of these accusers, people have actually committed suicide or what they consider committing suicide. It's like Kevin Spacey's accuser committed suicide. Huh. It's one of those things of, why must we go to that distance if you're just going to keep yourself safe?
Right.
And it's like, and as I said, it does not diminish what happened to any one of them and the believability or not believability. But it's a word to the wise of think properly. Think about what you're doing before you go to an audition. It doesn't matter how famous the person is. You really have to think about it and go, okay, this is my professional reputation. Another thing that also you have to realize is that now your social media profile is shown a lot there in this industry. How do you think also our new we're now starting to really become, as we build an audience through our social media for a project, we're also building a reputation through social media as well. How do you think that's impacting our industry?
Well, it can, depending on your what your social media presence is. I think sometimes that has an effect on whether you get asked to audition for parts, because they say, oh, how many Facebook followers do you have? How many do you have on Instagram or Twitter? It's like, oh, you've only got a few hundred. Yeah, well, maybe we need to have somebody, instead of a few hundred thousand followers. So I think your whatever your social media presence is can affect what you get asked to do, because nowadays that's how you promote everything. A lot of things more things are promoted, over social media, over Facebook and Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and all that. versus, traditional old school advertising.
It does. And also, the one rule of thumb and I'm sure that you'd agree with this, is don't put anything on your social media that you don't expect 20 years from now to be proud of still.
Oh, yeah.
So your indie work, anything that you do, from pictures straight on through to any of your promotions, to any of the posts that you do, 20 years from now, you better be able to stand by those, because they're going to regurgitate.
Right. And just remember, anything you post on social media, pictures or articles or anything, even if you delete it from your pages, it's still out there. It doesn't go away. Somebody has copied it, or it's still on something somewhere. So once you put it out to the universe, it's there. You can't take it back.
Yeah, it lives indelibly.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that it's like can work for you or against you in the industry as well, because a lot of employers and a lot of people are now looking at your social media to slant whether they want you for a part, whether they want you to, as part of their project. Because
right.
As your fame can boost you, your fame can kill you too.
Mm-hmm. Something you did back when you were a teenager will haunt you later on in life sometimes, depending on what, like I said, if you're trying to get an audition for something, some goofiness you did when you were, like I said, a teenager, be like, oh, well, nowadays, well, we can't have you portray this part because when you were 18, you got drunk and drove off a bridge. Okay. Didn't hurt anybody, but you did that, so we can't have you as the public figure on this thing, that we can't support that. So yeah.
So, message to the wise in the film industry, as well as also message to the wise of those who are dealing with social media. You want to use your social media in positive ways, but also realize whatever you put on social media, it lives indelibly, as well as also understanding the most important thing. Be proud of the things that you post, because 20 years from now, when it gets regurgitated back to you, when you are going to do something, you better be able to stand by that picture, that thing that you said, and you know what? I still feel just like that today.
Right. Yeah, 20 years ago, it's like it's as true today as it was 20 years ago. You need to be able to, like you say, whatever you post, just before you post it, think 20 years out. Hopefully you still feel the same way, or if you have changed, and if like whatever you did, if 20 years later you're like, yeah, that was okay then, but as long as you can justify a change, but it has to be, well, 20 years ago I drank Pepsi, but here 20 years later I've decided that I like Coca-Cola better. You got to make sure that it's going to play through all right.
Yeah, and this is another thing, is also justification of a lot of the things. It's like, if you can't justify it, well, that was just me 20 years ago.
Right.
Then chances are you really shouldn't have posted it to begin with. Right.
I was just a dumb kid and posted that up there. Yeah, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't fly. I was young and stupid. That's why I did that. No, sorry.
Yeah, now you're old and stupid for having it come back up again that you were young and stupid and posted it. So that's why I also say that it's like we're also learning through 2020 about media skewings and stuff like that. And it's kind of interesting when you're looking at it through the lens of the industry, that we are no longer just a society that are watchers of films.
Mhm.
We're participators of films.
Mhm.
Therefore, it's like we are also innovators of films and changers of the medium of film and television and new media.
Right.
We actually are submerged in the world farther than we know. And that being said, also good news. VisionCon is also coming up again this year. So yay, we're going to be doing the VisionCon episode, which is great. For all of those who missed our last VisionCon episodes, in regards to that, you missed some really great cosplayers with us in the industry, and we'll be setting those up very, very soon. So what is on our up and coming year coming through? We're also going to talk about the fact that a lot of movies are now becoming minds for change. It's like there are certain movies that came up in 2019 that were really interesting, that if you didn't get the undertones of them, that a lot of movies are starting to reflect the social change that is starting to happen in society.
Right.
As well. One of the fun ones was the recreation of the Addams Family. I got it, what it was talking about. But for a lot of people, it's like, you.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we're getting to that part of the show. We're just about done. So
we are, and we will be back. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, with more fantastic interviews. I will be doing a lot of interviews over at Sundance as well, and patching in our Olaf there with us, hopefully, if he's able to make it with us.
Okay.
And Olaf, so how do they get you again in social media for all of us?
Well, you can stalk me on both Facebook and Twitter at Olaf Barbosa, but as I always say, don't stalk too close because I do get nervous and I do have an itchy trigger finger.
Very true.
It's like one quick little thing I'm going to put out for 2020. Now, most of you may not think about it when you're writing a date on any kind of thing this year. You definitely want to put 2020, not just 20. Because if anybody wants to change it, if you just put 20, they can make it 2017, 18, or whatever. So make sure when you're writing your checks out or whatever, you put 2020 on there. Wow. That's my bit of advice for this year.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And Kinte, how do they get you on social media?
Kinte F on Twitter and Kinte Fergerson on Instagram and indyradio.org. That's indyradio.org is the website.
Yeah, and for me, any questions that you have or anything, please, or if you want to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Visipedia, YouTube. It's like, as I always say, I'm in so many places. It's like it's like on Facebook, Twitter, and all of that. That if you can't find me, you're just not stalking me hard enough. Including also, 2020 is a location move for this girl because she's officially going to become a California girl.